Hey everybody, this is Joe. I'm here in my Houston, Texas garden, and I'm in zone 9A, and I'm gonna give you a look at my garden in the first week, sort of the second week of August. I have been away, so I've cut this video in half, so there is another video I just did of the shady side of the garden, which is all around the edges. And now I'm gonna give you a look at the middle. I have been away from the garden for a month. I went out of town and where I had to wear a sweater, don't be jealous, in Scotland for 2 weeks, and then we came home and I brought COVID home with me, and so then I spent another 2 weeks sort of stuck in my bedroom. So this garden, I had very kind people who were watering this garden, making sure the sprinklers went on and also turned off while I was gone a couple of days. I think we set it off about 3 times, and had people coming and watering the pots. And then my very sweet family kept it going for the second 2 weeks that they didn't expect to when I was sick. And so I have done a little bit of work on the garden, but not a lot. And the first 2 days we were gone, it rained 3 inches. And then it has not rained 1 drop in my yard for 5 weeks. And it's been between probably 98 and 103 every day for the last 2 months. And so it's rough. The garden looks rough, but I thought I would show you what looks great, what is handling it, and I give you some thoughts. I'm thinking, probably like you are, about what I'm gonna do next year, what I will do differently, what I will buy seeds for, and what I will pull out. I thought I'd give you a look around. So I'm gonna start. Now, I swear I will look up the name of this vine. It's in my little book, and I'll put it in the description if you desperately want to know. I think it's gonna have blue flowers. The wonderful guy at Joshua's Native Plants in Houston, Joshua himself was like, "You're gonna like this," and I bought it, but I can't remember what it is. This Cape Plumbago is awesome. It is huge. It is probably 7 feet across and blooms. It does not take an extra drop of water in the ground. It is just tough, beautiful flowers, beautiful color. I can't recommend it enough. It's a great plant for Houston. And then I've got, this is Indigo Spires Salvia. And I bought it by accident. I wanted a shorter one. I stuck it in here. I didn't really want it because it's floppy, but it is blooming and it's got good foliage and it looks good all summer. You have to be prepared for it to flop over, but it's a great plant. And then I've got lots of zinnias. They are doing really well, and I love my little teeny tiny baby zinnias. And I love the big ones. Occasionally they'll throw out an orange flower, which I don't love. I'm leaving it. I'm leaving them for the, if they're fresh, I'm leaving them for bees and butterflies, even though I'm not in love with orange flowers. But I have a question for you guys. I'm having trouble. I really like zinnias, and they do so well in the summer, but they lay down on top of all my other plants. Look at this. It's just smushing all of my coneflowers down there. And it's like, is it me? Are there zinnias that don't lay down? Should I be propping them up with something? So I'd love to hear from you in the comments if you grow zinnias and have been able to figure out how to keep them upright and not just crushing its neighbors. So here's what I'm thinking for next year. This is a beautiful buddleia that obviously didn't make it through the summer. So a couple of years ago I bought 2 identical to this one, same variety. They looked good. I planted them in the ground. One looked great. One lived, one died. Okay. Then this year, another one died. The one that was beautiful in last year's videos died. Okay. I bought another one. Turned out to be the wrong variety. I put it over there. It died. I come back from vacation, and this was not a surprise to me. This one is dead. So I am inwardly digesting the fact that Buddleia does not want to grow in Houston. It's just not going to make it through the summer. And I thought I could handle just buying it and letting it be pretty, but you know what? I'm tired of buying those. So I'm going to change the way I'm thinking. I'm just going to do it differently, which means I'm not going to grow that. So now I need to think about what I can put in that space that will be as tall and colorful and beautiful that I will love and be happy with right there. I haven't figured it out. Here's the other thing I'm changing my mind about. I love the Tutti Frutti agastache, and it's fine here. But, you know, if you go back and look at last year's spring video, it was 6 feet tall and an absolute showstopper. And that did not happen this year. And it's just, you know, it's alive, but it doesn't want to live here. It kind of hates it here. Case in point, that dead one. And so I will, you know, there's a couple little baby ones that are alive, but I will not replace it. I will enjoy it while it's here. I will not replace it. Let me show you what I think I'm going to replace it with, which is this Gomphrena, which is so pretty and cute, and really the butterflies and the bees really like it. This one is self-sown. Look how big this is, and it's all the way over here, and it just came up. I did not plant it here, so obviously they're easy to grow from seed because it just came up. But it has, and I'll show you another Gomphrena in a minute, but it has that floaty look to it, and it will get even bigger. And so that may be what I use in this part of the garden instead of this, because this is hurting in the heat. And half of it has died, and all of last year's died. This stuff is unfazed by the heat. Okay, so that's my second mindset. Here is another thing. Let's see if I can climb back here without stepping on. There's so many weeds, you guys. This is what happens when you're gone this long. Just weed-tastic back here. Okay, one of the things that's been fantastic has been this Verbena bonariensis, which seeded itself. I tried to grow it years ago, and it didn't like it here. This one came up in the middle of a lily. The lily has never bloomed, by the way, in the history of this lily. But I got it at a garage sale. But this has been wonderful, and I deadheaded it a bit before we went on vacation, and it could use another trim, but I almost don't want to because it's color and it's tall and it's floaty. So I will try to, you know, put some of these seeds out, sprinkled out in the garden next year, and see if I can recreate this, because it's one of my favorite things. You know, when you go to an English garden, or you look at one online, you look in a book, you go look at a video, they have this everywhere, just floating around, and I've always wanted that. I had it in College Station, Texas, and I haven't had it here until this year, and it was an accident. I didn't even plant it. So this is a goal, and I know it'll grow here now. It doesn't seem phased at all by the heat. It's full sun, Houston sun, no problem. This is, let me turn back around. This is my rose bush. This is Caldwell Pink, which has gotten overtaken. We tried to get some of it out yesterday. Overtaken by this weed. It's a native Texas plant, but it's a weed. It's a vicious weed in my garden. And so I've got to keep pulling that out so that my rose doesn't get smothered. So I'm going to turn back around. Let me climb back through without stepping on the pretty things. Here we go, here we go, here we go. All right, now, one of the things I did before I left was I did a Chelsea chop on this half of my black and blue salvia, which then, of course, flushed back out and looks beautiful. I didn't want to cut it all at the same time because I wanted to leave some for birds, for butterflies and bees. So now that this has come back and it's green and pretty, I will take that side. You can see it's scruffy and taller and a mess. So now I will cut all of that side down and let that come back. And this has been able, black and blue salvia, it's very, in my opinion, it's invasive, but you know, it did this in 100-degree heat. It was like, no problem, and just came back just fully, beautifully green, bloomed all over again. So I do recommend this, but put it where it can't run wild, because I've been pulling it out of the edge of this since time began. Anyway, highly recommended, and I will deadhead that, or Chelsea chop it this week. So, there's one other thing I was going to show you over here. So a little cleome that clearly sort of went to seed middle of the summer maybe. And so while I've pulled out all but 2 of them, which are way over there, maybe this will be beautiful in the fall. So if this works, maybe 1st of June, I might, you get millions of seeds off of a single plant. I may sprinkle some seeds the beginning of the summer and see if I can have some for the fall. That's very encouraging. And I even look at it, looks like it's almost ready to bloom now. So that's a thought for the fall Houston garden. The fennel is not happy. That bronze fennel that popped up for a hot second in my last video, a month ago, immediately died. I was like, look, it's here. I showed it to you. It died. These are my jalapenos. I have not gotten a single jalapeno the whole year, so I'm kind of about to pull those up. I've got more Gomphrena, which I'm now obsessed with. I'm currently obsessed, and I also think I'll show you in a minute. You probably have seen on my other video earlier, I have some in a pot, because if I want it to be taller and floatier, it won't quite get as tall maybe as I want. And so I could put it in a pot and raise it up higher so that it can float around in the top like I want it here and there, if I want it taller. And it seems fine in a pot. The basil, I pinched back some of the basil before I left, and it's just coming into flower. But I left some that was already in flower before I left, because the bees really appreciate this, and I'm trying as hard as I can to provide them with nectar in this heat where, my neighborhood is not covered in flowers. There's so many sort of non-native plants and boxwoods and things, nothing's blooming. And so I'm trying to be the space where they can find some nectar in this heat. And so basil, which is just it's unfazed by the heat, is a really good source of nectar for bees. One of the other things is this Walker's Low Nepeta, which is a catmint. Pretty little blue flowers, and it doesn't seem to mind the heat at all. I mean, it's been so pretty. I did grow this in College Station, Texas, which is outside of Houston by about an hour and a half drive, and it loved it there too. I grew Six Hills Giant, which was a much bigger variety. I never see that variety anymore, but the Walker's Low is doing great in my Houston garden. Okay, I get to gloat. Look at this, y'all. I grew this native milkweed from seed. I'm pretty excited. I think milkweed seeds or flowers are so pretty. And I can't tell you how excited I am that they're growing. And this one that's so rinky-dink but has 3 stalks, I actually accidentally chopped it off. I broke it. And 4 stalks, and it's come back like that. So it actually came back better. And look at the seed pods. Holy moly, look at the seed pods. Look, there's 4. Okay, Rachel, 5 over at Gulf Coast Butterfly Gardening. Those have your name on them. 6, there's another one. So an embarrassment of riches there. Now here is the other half. It looks terrible. Just look away from the pond. So there's the pretty black and blue salvia, and here's the part that's all rangy and pretty looking, and I'll cut that back. This rose, now my roses have pretty much quit in this heat. I've got a few roses, but really I'm looking around, it's mostly this. Again, nearly wild rose. It is the toughest rose. It blooms obviously in constant 100 degree heat. it keeps its flowers for weeks. I am not exaggerating. Individual flowers for weeks and weeks. It doesn't get black spot. It's got a little bit of crisp on it, but this is a great rose. And you can kind of keep it trimmed as small as you want. If it will get bigger if you leave it, but I have a tendency to clip it back. Okay, here's another question. Can you guys recommend these are zinnias, they're just laying on the ground. Like, zinnias hate me. I'm like, can you stand up? Please stand up. I've got a pretty little salvia in here that's just got a little flower on it, but it seems pretty tough and is doing all right. But I'll clip that back. And this is another little salvia that's got blue flowers. Looks like maybe it either flowered while, yeah, it's already flowered while I was gone, but that means it flowered in, 100-degree heat and no water. And this, okay, here's the headline. Oh, pardon me in the helicopter. Here's the headline. This is a Gomphrena in a pot. Now, I moved it before my vacation. I was thinking I ought to move it. I don't feel like moving it. It's going to be a pain. I moved it anyway. I just sucked it up and moved it just about maybe 4 feet from the middle forward. This is in a pot. This, if you look at my garden, how many flowers I've got going, this is where it's at. This is the most flowers anywhere, is this Gomphrena. And I think this is simply 2 4-inch pots in this flower pot. And it came back. I put it, when it was gonna freeze in December, I put it in the garage. I cut it down all the way down, and it came back in the spring. I've never grown it in the ground, but holy moly, y'all, it's beautiful. And I did trim it back, and all it did was, quadruple my flowers. I trimmed it back a month ago before I left. It's magnificent. So that's for the win. Another thing, I thought I was planting coral nymph salvia out here. I don't know what this is. It's just a plain, solid pink salvia. It looks so good. And it has self-seeded here with another one. And then I'm literally standing here making this video. I think that's another one there. And I have down in here, you can see a little white Salvia gregii, which is a native Texas plant. It hates me. There used to be one here and here and here and here, and they've all died. There's one left. And I think when I end up moving this Gomphrena for the, in the future, moving this pot is sort of a space holder where something looks terrible, I put it there. And it was right here amongst these terrible looking grasses. And they look like they needed a little room. So I moved this. I think this is going to be my new go-to because it seems unfazed by the heat, and it clearly will reseed here, and I bet you money that's what that is. So again, I'm resetting my thoughts of like, oh, I really like Salvia gregii. No, I'm walking away from Salvia gregii. Thank you for your help, but you're excused. But I don't know what salvia this is, but it's so pretty. I've got, I still have coneflowers going. They're pretty ratty, but I always see, this is where the butterflies, all my pictures of butterflies are always on they're almost always on the white coneflowers. And then I've got a pink one back there. That plant looks horrible, but it's still got nice, fresh flowers on it. And so I'm leaving those, but they look really terrible. And again, this is so many, it's like roses. None of these roses are really performing at all. It's just too hot. Too hot. A couple of little babies, but yeah, they're just not happy. And now the 1st of September, maybe even middle of September, I will prune all my roses. In Houston, you can just prune them back and have a whole new, it's like second spring. Whole new flush of flowers, and that'll be wonderful. Now my native pink muley grass, very unhappy. Last year I cut it very early spring. I cut it back, and I have regretted it ever since. It was the prettiest thing in the garden in the fall, and I trimmed it back, and it has just, So it's finally getting a little growth, which is why I moved that pot and give it some room. I pulled off a whole bunch of zinnias from back there. And I'm, cross your fingers for me, guys, but I regret every second that I cut that back last year because it was so pretty. The black and blue salvia this is big blue. Sorry, this is big blue salvia, which needs a little trim. It's doing okay. It wilts in the afternoon and comes back. The Mystic Spires actually is prettier right here. It's smaller, but I think it's a pretty color blue. And then this is the Peter's Purple Monarda, and some of it looks really great, and some of it's got new growth coming back. A lot of it dies out. I had that happen last year, and I would kind of take the part that looked good and dig it up and move it, and it was very easy to move. Now here's more of that Tutti Frutti agastache, which this gets more shade, so it's all right, but I swear to God, that one was pretty 2 days ago, and today it's like dead. I have thrown some zinnia seeds out just to give, you can see I've got so much bare space now. So many things have died in the heat. My carrot is gone. The carrot finally gave up the ghost. So you can see some little zinnia seeds popping up in there. I threw those out 4 or 5 days ago. And I've got a few more popping up here just to try to fill that negative space. And because there's so much room, I'm not as worried about them flopping over and killing. There's nothing for them to flop over on. Penta, you can't say enough about a penta. It just takes the heat. It's happy. It's easy. And the butterflies really like it. Bees too, but I see a lot of butterflies on the pentas. And so I highly recommend that for Texas, for Houston. My little roses are struggling here. I've got more of this Tutti Frutti agastache. It's in the shade over here. Oh, not quite in the shade. It gets a lot of shade. It's okay, but again, I've learned my lesson. I will not replace it. Next year, I've got to find something that makes me just as happy. Maybe Gomphrena. Maybe I'm overdoing it with the Gomphrena. This is where I had that beautiful pale lavender scabiosa. And this is another mindset thing. I love it. It has never made it to July. Never. And I'm buying 5 1-gallon pots will fit in there. And that's costing me $75 just to have that for 3 months. And I'm gonna give up. I'm not gonna do it. I might grow some from seed. They have taller varieties that I've grown from seed. Fine, $3.99 a packet, no problem. But I've got to find something that is the color, the shape, the size of something that I really will like, that is actually happy here and will make it through the summer. So I don't know what that's going to be yet, but I'm changing. I've always had that here since I grew this garden. I've always had that here, and I'm changing my mindset, and I'm just gonna pick something else, like Inwardly Digest. Those don't want to live here in Houston. Now here's my Salvia leucantha, all bushy. I have clipped it back. I think I'm through clipping it back, but I have trimmed it and trimmed it and trimmed it and trimmed it all year. And so it blooms in the fall, and now I think I can get blooms and it won't all fall over because I've kept it compact. And so I think I'm through trimming it. I'm not promising anything, but you can see, I'm gonna try to give you an example of trimming it back. Okay, so the first thing I did is I cut it when it was this tall, right? And so then I got 3. This one branched, I cut it there. Here, I cut it there, right? And it gets more and more and more. And you can see even the last little cut. Let's see if I can see it. The last little cut right in here. It's like, that's what I'm doing, is going from a single stalk to multiple stalks. And the more I cut, the bushier and bushier and bushier it gets. So that's all one stalk right there that I could have left as a single stalk and would have gotten a single flower from, and instead I'll get that many flowers. So that's why I've just clipped it and clipped it. Here's a little update on that little native variety of tall verbena that I'm going to try to kind of be like Verbena bonariensis. It's already bloomed And it hasn't gotten as tall as it will, but it's pretty happy, and it's almost full shade tucked back there. Here's one of the other stars of the show, this tall penta. That's almost 5 feet tall, this one. And it looks wonderful. You can see it really nicely from the house. It's a dark color, and you can see it just sort of picks up the breeze. It moves around a little bit, and it's a big pollinator favorite. And I'm loving this giant. I've never had one get this big, and I'm loving it. Here are my sole survivor cleomes, and I've just left them. Mostly they're kind of ratty, but again, they move around in the wind. I can see them from the house, and they give me that little pop of color from afar, even though up close they're kind of a little ratty. Here is, oh, there's Miss Doubtfire. Are you just too sleepy to even come see us? Are you? Oh my goodness, what a chicken. Here I've got that Gomphrena in a pot. I just moved this pot and I kind of knocked it down a little bit, knocked that Gomphrena flat a little bit. But that's my bottomless pot. We had a sprinkler issue, and the pot got moved around, and so hopefully it's where it's going to live now. Here is the rose I put back here last year. Not a single flower. It's supposed to be a shrub, and yet I have this giant thing, and I have not gotten a single flower. So I'm thinking the universe is telling me maybe I need to move this rose to a sunnier spot. I'm not sure. It's awfully trampled and empty in the middle, and I'm not sure quite what I'm gonna do. I have different ideas for that spot next year, but I don't know. It might end up being this rose, which is a deep maroon rose. There's the pale penta, which is getting a little bit too much shade, so it's blooming, but it's laying down. This is the exact same penta that's almost 5 feet tall, right behind me. So, and then this is Salvia amistad. It is ratty. It's got very few blooms on it, but I still see bees on it, and it needs another Chelsea chop. I've done it once this year. It needs another one, so I'll take you around. I cut the back off, so I'm gonna let the back come back with some flowers, then I'll cut the front off. I didn't want to cut it all. There are enough flowers for me not to want to trim it back. And then here's my little Texas red bud. I'm very happy. We had to stake it a little better. Its little bamboo stake was not getting the job done. So I have high hopes for that little tree next year. And then the Salvia uliginosa, which I love, that beautiful, beautiful blue. Isn't that just so sweet? And it loves the shade. And so that's what all of this is. And it needs a clip back because it was blooming when I left, and so it needs a little trim. And then the Gulf Coast penstemon, little native, is so pretty still going. It's just little blooms here and there, but it's still blooming, still pretty in the shade. This is blue mist flower, which is in the shade. It looks great, no flowers, it's too shady. Too shady. Here's some of the diamond frost euphorbia that is blooming. A lot of places it's just green right now in my yard. And then this is my little hodgepodge, but I do have the fire spike is just beginning to bloom. And then actually you can see back here in the back where I've cut the back half of the Salvia amistad out. Oh, I was going to show you, I'm going to end on, let me show you this other salvia. There's Salvia amanti out here, and which I've talked about before. And then there's one that I thought was marked amanti, and it's definitely not. It's a different color, different plant altogether. So let's see if I can find them. Here's amanti, which is this paler pink with a darker sort of bract. I guess that's a bract, right? And that's sort of the little sister, pale pink sister of amistad. Also bought the same time with the same tag is this I don't know what it is. It's much more purple. Much more purple. Well, no. Is that it? Because there's one that has the bracts are green. Now see, I've got myself all confused. Here's the one that's more purple. It's pretty ratty right now. But the bracts, there's a good one. The bracts are green and the flower is more purple than pink. And Amonte, the plant gets ratty and the leaves are kind of small and it's not great. But this one that I accidentally bought, and I don't know the name of, has much bigger leaves and is a better looking plant than that one is. And so, and this is the one I wasn't sure if I would recommend because it gets so ratty so quickly. I have had very few weeks where the Amonte looked great. Flowers look good. I have very few weeks where the whole plant and the flowers look great at the same time. Most of the time I'm thinking, ugh, it doesn't look great. This one, meanwhile, it needs deadheading. This one, the plant looks kind of great all the time. I guess I cut it back when I cut the Amonte back, but it just is a completely different animal here, where you can kind of see the bigger leaves versus the smaller leaves, darker leaves versus the lighter leaves. So I'm not loving the Amonte. I am I'm liking this. And so if I ever tear out the Amonte, I'll probably leave this one back here. Whatever it may be, I'll leave it back here. All right, you guys, thanks for looking. It's been a long time. And so I had a lot to show you. Thanks for sticking with me. And if you haven't seen the other video, I talked for so long when I started to make this video 2 days ago that I thought, oh, that's too much for a video. And so that one has gone by the wayside. So there's this video and there's another one for all of that. I hope you guys are having fun out in your gardens, that you're not just baking in the sun, and that you're making it and having fun planning things for the fall like I am. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.